There's a law that governs both kingdoms and relationships. A law older than seduction, older than love itself. The law of scarcity. Whatever is abundant loses its value. Whatever is rare becomes priceless. And most men, without realizing it, make themselves worthless through abundance. They over-text. They over-explain. They over-give. They offer constant attention, thinking it will buy affection. But attention given freely is never appreciated. It's expected. And once it's expected, it loses its meaning. That's the quiet tragedy of modern romance. Men mistake consistency for attraction and end up becoming background noise in the lives of women they adore. Machiavelli warned rulers never to be too familiar with their subjects, because familiarity breeds contempt. The same is true in love. When your presence is predictable, it becomes invisible. When your energy is always available, it becomes forgettable. That's why the man who withdraws, not out of cruelty, but composure, becomes magnetic. Because his absence creates space for imagination, and imagination is the birthplace of obsession. She starts to wonder where he went, who he's with, what he's thinking. Did she say something wrong? Did he lose interest? The truth doesn't matter. What matters is that she's thinking. And that's how the game changes. Not through control, but through contrast. Every other man floods her with attention, but he, the one who holds back, becomes the one her mind can't release. It's not magic. It's psychology. The human brain values what it can't easily predict. That's why limited edition items sell out. Why exclusive access feels like privilege. Why the hardest person to get always becomes the hardest to forget. Scarcity doesn't mean ghosting. It doesn't mean emotional games. It means discipline. It means knowing when to give. Enaren and Jiro. To kite when let silence do the work. It means realizing that your energy, your time, your presence are a currency, and if you hand them out to everyone, they become worthless. Machiavelli would call this governing through restraint. You don't win power by force, you win it by control, especially control over yourself. Because the truth is simple. You teach people how to value you by how you value yourself. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop explaining, you start commanding. And when you stop being available to everyone, you become unforgettable to the right one. That's the law of scarcity, the foundation of all power, and the beginning of every obsession. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are driven by two things, love and fear." But in modern language, that translates to two deeper forces, validation and indifference. And here's the truth. The one who needs validation always ends up under the control of the one who doesn't. Indifference is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. It's not arrogance, it's not manipulation, it's emotional freedom. Because the man who can stay calm while others panic, who can stay silent while others demand reaction, who can walk away without needing closure, is untouchable. He's not cold, he's composed, and that composure is magnetic. Most men think love means proving themselves, proving loyalty, proving devotion. But every act of desperation sends one message: I need you to see me. And the moment someone feels needed, they lose respect for the person needing them. Indifference breaks that pattern completely. It tells the world, I choose what I give energy to. And you don't control that. That's not cruelty. It's control. It's the discipline to protect your emotional resources the same way a king protects his gold. Because the truth is, attention is the most expensive currency in the world, and the man who gives it away carelessly always ends up broke. Machiavelli would say, appear compassionate, but never dependent. And that's the essence of indifference. You can love deeply, but you never need what you love to survive. You can care sincerely, but you never beg to be understood. You can feel strongly, but you don't let your feelings rule your judgment. That's what makes indifference so powerful. It's not an act of resistance. It's an act of balance. And women feel that balance instantly, because emotional control in a man triggers both curiosity and respect. She doesn't understand it, because most men crumble under pressure. But when she meets one who doesn't, she starts to wonder what makes him different. Why doesn't he chase? Why doesn't he react? Why doesn't he try to prove himself? That curiosity becomes fascination, and fascination, when unanswered, becomes obsession. The man who's indifferent isn't playing games. He's playing life differently. He's stopped trying to control others and started mastering himself. And that shift from reaction to restraint is what Machiavelli meant when he wrote about power. Because true control isn't about domination, it's about direction. He doesn't suppress emotion, he directs it. He doesn't ignore attraction, he refines it. He doesn't chase a validation, he commands respect. That's the power of indifference. It's not about winning her over. It's about never losing yourself trying to. Every great strategist, from generals to philosophers, eventually discovers the same truth. The battlefield is never out there. It's inside. That's what Machiavelli understood long before the word psychology even existed. He knew that the man who cannot rule himself can never rule anything or anyone else. And in the world of desire, that principle becomes even more powerful. Because the moment a man learns to control his impulses, he stops being predictable. And the predictable man is never desired, only tolerated. See, women have seen every type of man who reacts. The one who gets angry when ignored. The one who begs for a chance. The one who turns cold the second he feels threatened. They've seen it all. They expect it. But what they don't expect is the man who remains still. Not out of fear, but out of mastery. He doesn't chase. He doesn't retaliate. He doesn't need to prove. He doesn't care. Because real peace doesn't need performance. That silence, that calm, that's the mirror of self-control. It reflects something back at her, something she rarely sees in the modern world. Discipline. A man who controls himself doesn't just withhold attention, he channels it. Every action is intentional. Every word is measured. Every response is deliberate. And that kind of focus unsettles people who live on impulse. She can't read him. She can't predict him. She can't manipulate him. Because he's not reacting to her. He's responding to himself. Machiavelli would say this man has learned to appear weak when it serves him and strong when it matters. That's not deception. It's wisdom. He doesn't fight every battle because he understands not every battle deserves his energy. That's the highest form of control, selective engagement. And that's what makes him powerful. He's not withholding love. He's mastering leverage. He knows that whoever controls their emotions controls the dynamic. Because emotions are the strings people pull when they want to control you. But when those strings lead nowhere, when you've cut every one of them, you become unshakable. That's when peace turns into presence. And presence turns into magnetism. Because calmness in a man is rare. And what's rare is always remembered. His restraint isn't weakness, it's mystery. His composure isn't distance, it's depth. He's no longer trying to be desired. He's embodying something deeper. Value that doesn't need to announce itself. That's the mirror of self-control. The one that reflects discipline, clarity, and power. The one that makes her realize she's not dealing with a boy seeking approval, but with a man who's already found it. Absence. A word most people fear, but the wise use it as a weapon. See, in a world that glorifies constant connection, distance feels like death. If someone doesn't text back, we assume rejection. If they don't post, we assume something's wrong. If they go silent, we panic. That's how dependent we've become on presence. And that's why absence has become so powerful. Machiavelli once wrote that a ruler should let himself be seen seldom, to make himself revered often. He understood something most men never will. When you remove yourself, you increase your value. It's the paradox of absence. You become more powerful by appearing less. Because when you step back, the imagination steps in. And imagination is far more seductive than reality. When you're always around, she gets used to you. She knows your schedule, your tone, your habits. You become predictable. And predictability kills desire. But when you disappear, when you pull your energy back, you become a mystery again. And mystery is oxygen to attraction. She starts replaying moments, wondering what you're doing, who you're with, why you suddenly feel so distant. And the more she wonders, the more she feels. That's the power of absence. It doesn't create indifference, it creates intensity. Because the human brain doesn't crave what it has, it craves what it's lost. Every man who's mastered this understands. Presence satisfies curiosity, but absence fuels imagination. And imagination is where obsession is born. That's why silence drives her crazy. Not because it's punishment, but because it forces her to fill the void herself. And in doing so, she begins to attach deeper meaning to your absence than she ever did to your presence. She starts to see you as more powerful, more mysterious, more in control. Not because you changed, but because she no longer has access. That's what scarcity does. It transforms normal things into sacred ones. The more available you are, the less valuable your energy feels. But the moment you step back, even slightly, you become something rare again. Machiavelli called this the illusion of importance. Because importance is never about what you give, it's about what you withhold. And the man who understands that doesn't chase validation. He lets curiosity do the work. He doesn't need to remind anyone of his worth. His absence says it for him. Because every second you're not there, they start to realize what it felt like when you were. That's the paradox of absence. The less they see you, the more they feel you. Every interaction between a man and a woman, between any two people really, operates inside a frame. A frame is simply this. Who defines reality? The one who defines what something means controls the dynamic. And the moment you lose that control, you lose everything. This is the final lesson Machiavelli left behind. Not in words, but in wisdom. Whoever shapes the story shapes the power. Most men don't realize how easily they surrender that control. They let emotions dictate meaning. They let rejection define their value. They let validation decide their self-worth. And when they do, they hand over the frame. A woman says, "You've changed," and he apologizes, trying to win her approval back. A woman withdraws, and he chases, trying to prove he's still enough. But the Machiavellian man? He doesn't react. He redefines. If she says he's distant, he says, "I'm focused." If she says he's cold, he says, "I'm calm." If she pulls away, he lets her. Because space is not a threat. It's clarity. That's frame control, not manipulation, but mastery. It's understanding that power is perception, and perception follows certainty. The man who knows who he is doesn't bend when the world pushes. He simply holds his ground until the world adjusts around him. That's what Machiavelli meant when he wrote, "The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present." It wasn't about dishonor. It was about adaptability. He understood that those who cling to comfort lose control of reality, and those who define reality lead. In love, that means this. You decide what your silence means. You decide what your absence represents. You decide what your standards say about you, because if you don't, someone else will. And they'll write a story where you're always chasing, always proving, always losing. Control the frame, and you never chase again. You become the mountain, steady, unmoved, undeniable. And she becomes the traveller, circling, observing, admiring, wondering how to reach your level. The final truth is this: people don't follow those who give the most. They follow those who define the meaning of what they give. When you act from clarity instead of emotion, you control the tone. When you live from purpose instead of reaction, you control the story. And when you stop letting others tell you who you are, you become someone they can never forget. That's the forbidden strategy Machiavelli understood. Not deception, not dominance, direction. Because the one who controls the frame controls desire, controls perception, controls reality. And in a world full of men chasing approval, the one who defines the story always walks away as the author, never the character.